Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Friday edition of From the Boardroom to the Locker Room as we look forward to what promises to be a wonderful sporting weekend. But let's start with a couple of results from the middle of the week, in particular last night's action where Quinton de Kock is back in the international cricket fold. And once again, he's shown his class. A magnificent century, his 22nd one-day international century. South Africa romped home to an emphatic 8-wicket victory with 9.5 overs still to spare to level the series 1-1 against Pakistan at the Iqbal Stadium in Faisalabad. De Kock was at his absolute best, destructive, best of bowling all over the place. 8 fours and 7 sixes in his unbeaten 123 from just 119 deliveries. He led the Proteas to 270 for the loss of 2 in 40 overs and 1 ball, flying to Pakistan's below par total of 269 for 9 after Pakistan chose to bat first. But he wasn't the only hero of the South Africa performance. Nandre Burger also was fantastic. He destroyed the Pakistani top order, which set the victory up right at the beginning of the match. Pakistan were 22 for 3 before a 80-odd run partnership with them to 114 for 4, but they were never going to get past the 265 mark. They got to 263 for the loss of 9. Nandre Burger, magnificent bowling performance, 4 for 46 in 10 overs. Corbin Bosch took 2 for 58 in his 10 overs. And Nkaba Peter wrapped up the innings at the end. He took 3 for 55 in 8 overs. So fantastic performance by the Proteas, getting across the line now for the decider. That takes place tomorrow when South Africa and Pakistan will play in the third one-day international, and then it'll be a couple of days to the test series in India, where South Africa will continue on in the pure form of the game. They take on the Indians. So what other cricket action are we expecting, and what other results have there been through the course of the week? Let's just take a look at some of those results for you. There were some very interesting clashes between the West Indies, India, Australia, and New Zealand. Let's start, shall we? Locally, though, where the match between Boland and the Titans was a bit of a damp squib. The Titans only managed 128 for 8 last night against Boland. Boland wrapping that up quite easily. 129 for 3 in 13 overs and 4 deliveries. And that was a good victory for the home side. Australia were bundled out in chasing 168. India had said 167 in their 20 overs. Australia completely bungled out for just 119 in 18 overs and 2 balls. That was thanks to the Indian spinners. And then the second T20 international between New Zealand and the West Indies, another thriller. New Zealand winning by just 3 runs. The West Indies 204 for 8, chasing 208 after New Zealand posted 207 for the loss of 5. So a great performance there. And then what does that mean as far as the fixtures are concerned for the weekend? Well, there's some great fixtures coming up. A couple of series that need to be decided, let alone the one between South Africa and Pakistan later on today. In fact, as we're speaking, there is the Warriors playing Western Province in the Cricket South Africa T20 competition. The Dragons have just got underway against the Dolphins. Tomorrow, 10:15 in the morning, Australia play India in the 5th T20 International. Australia will be looking to bounce back after the recent poor performance and loss. Pakistan take on South Africa. That starts at 12 o'clock. And in the T20 South African Challenge, Impalas play Eastern Cape. The Golden Route Badgers play the Rhinos. The Lions play the Tuskers. Then on Sunday, the third T20 International between the Black Caps, New Zealand, and the West Indies. Those matches are proving to be very close indeed. And then locally sees the Dolphins in action on Sunday as well. With lots of action there. So the Dolphins, they confirm that's the Dolphins taking on the Warriors, the Knights taking on the Storm, and Western Province will play the Titans at Newlands. And Monday, New Zealand will play their 4th T20 International against the West Indies, and then it's test match action next week from the 11th to the 15th of November. Bangladesh play Ireland in a test series. Sri Lanka make their way to Pakistan, so Pakistan end their one-day international series against South Africa on Saturday, and then on Tuesday they're already hosting Sri Lanka. Locally, it's the Dragons against the Tuskers and the Warriors against the Lions. Wednesday sees the Eastern Cape take on the Northern Cape. The Rhinos take on the Impalas with the 6-gun grill garden route badges. Thank goodness it's not a horse race. They take on Eastern Storm. Can you imagine being the commentator having to get your tongue around that? Then the 50-20 International on Thursday. New Zealand against the West Indies. Pakistan against Sri Lanka. T20 Challenge sees the Tuskers play Western Province, and then on the 14th of November, a week from today, it's the first test match between India and South Africa. That's going to be an absolute cracker. Looking forward to that one. So lots of cricket, lots of action coming up, and we look forward to bringing that all to you. Right, on the tennis front, it's the WTA finals currently underway in Riyadh. And let's have a look at the results for you in the action yesterday, semi-final action, if you like. Aryna Sabalenka was imperious in her brilliant performance, beating Coco Gauff 7-6 and 6-2, while Jessica Pegula brushed aside Jasmine Pierlini in the other game, 6-2, 6-3, which has set up the semi-finals tonight. Pegula against Rybakina and Sabalenka against Anisimova. So it's the top seed against the fourth seed, the fifth seed against the sixth seed. That is looking to become the WTA finals champion. In Riyadh already, Sabalenka has taken that number one spot for the year. It's going to be a great contest. Whoever gets into that final, big hitting players amongst the four ladies in the semi-finals. And then as far as the men are concerned, so Novak Djokovic has confirmed his participation in the year-end tournament, which I'm sure the organizers are absolutely delighted about. But the thing is that he will end up and has ended up in the draw with Carlos Alcaraz. So maybe he won't even get through to the knockout stages. He's going to have to play Alcaraz in the round robin stage of the ATP finals group. There are two groups of players, two groups of four. Djokovic will take on Alcaraz in the group stage. Seven-time finals champion Djokovic was confirmed as being amongst the 8 contenders in Turin and has been drawn in the Jimmy Connors group alongside the top-seeded Alcaraz, Taylor Fritz and Alex de Minaur. He is the winner of a record 24 Grand Slams. The now 38-year-old is currently hunting his second title of the year while he's playing in Athens. The world number 5 has made the semi-finals of all 4 Grand Slams this season, and in May became the third player in the Open era to lift his 100th ATP title by winning in Geneva, while Alcaraz is bidding to win the finals for the first time after another bumper year for the Spaniard, which has included victories at the US Open and Roland Garros coming after an epic final victory against his arch rival Yannick Sinner. Remember that one. So the Jimmy Connors group looks like this. Carlos Alcaraz, Novak Djokovic, Taylor Fritz and Alex de Minaur. In the Bjorn Borg group, Yannick Sinner, Alexander Zverev, Ben Shelton, and then either Felix Auger-Aliassime or Lorenzo Musetti. That's a moment. Right, let's look at golf this weekend, and it's the big golf tournament in the United Arab Emirates. Of course, is on the DP World Tour. It's the Abu Dhabi HSBC Championship, and once again, a wonderful performance on day one from Richard Sterney, the South African. He seems to get well underway in tournaments and then, unfortunately for him, falls away towards the third and fourth rounds. Well, he has the opportunity in arguably one of the biggest tournaments on the DP World Tour. He is leading at the moment after round one and early in round two. Then on the USPGA Tour, they're underway at the Worldwide Technology Championship. That tournament is currently underway as well. And next week sees the Betway Big Easy Tour take center stage, while the Hyundai Open is currently on in South Africa as well. So lots of great golf action as we move into the weekend. So it promises to be another fantastic golfing weekend. And just for your information, Ken Pyatt, the tournament director for the Nedbank Challenge, will be our special guest on From the Boardroom to the Locker Room, and we'll be giving you all the information, who is in the field, when it's taking place, what the course is looking like, have they had water, and I'm sure Sun City is in absolutely splendid fashion for the big event. And we'll also touch a little bit, I'm sure, with Ken on the master himself. Gary Player's 90th birthday was celebrated this month, and I'm sure that he's got some wonderful stories to tell us about the great Gary Player as well. Now, there is some fantastic sporting action on the tar of Interlagos, as Lewis Hamilton has once again had to defend himself because of claims that he might not be racing for Ferrari beyond next year after what is proving to be a hugely disappointing 2025 season following his move from Mercedes. The seven-time champion has gained an unwanted record after going 20 races without a podium finish. It's the longest in Ferrari history and is only sixth in the Drivers' Championship with 146 points. The Brazilian Grand Prix with a sprint race at 3:30 tomorrow afternoon, South African time, and then the main race on Sunday. So lots of points to be had in the Grand Prix series this weekend, and that, of course, is where the battle will continue as Max Verstappen continues to chase the two Papaya McLaren drivers, while Lando Norris has a 1-point lead over Oscar Piastri, and it really starts getting right now down to the wire. Verstappen showed in Brazil last year when he won from 17th on the grid that he can never be counted out, but Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri need no reminding of that in Sao Paulo this weekend. The battle at the top between Norris and Piastri on a knife edge with 4 rounds remaining. The Briton a point clear of the Aussie. Norris has momentum despite insisting he does not believe in that and has beaten his teammate in the last 5 races, although they collided in the most recent sprint in Austin. Piastri has showed signs of a comeback and returned to form in the Mexican race, if not in qualifying, and with the Sunday sprint also in the mix in Brazil, and paying extra points, the gap is set to widen one way or the other. Now, are they going to be free to race? I guess they are going to be free to race. However, at the same time, both of them will know that if they do, by any chance, bump into each other, or if an accident occurs like happened in the last sprint race where both of them were taken out on the first corner in the United States, then, of course, Max is right there in his Red Bull to gobble up the points and get closer and closer. And then the pressure will really be on. So Verstappen will be looking to make inroads in his own with a bumper 33-point haul to be won this weekend. So if either of the two McLaren drivers stumbles, Max will close the gap up on them. So let's not forget that there are other drivers who can upset the apple cart, if you like, and take points away. There's nobody else in contention for the Drivers' Championship, but George Russell has had a really good season. Charles Leclerc's got a very fast Ferrari under him, and Lewis Hamilton's going to be there once or twice this season. I can tell you right now, he is going to be very determined to get a win under his belt and get onto the podium. So those cars, others, can obviously take points away from the two McLarens and, of course, from Max Verstappen as well. So a lot on the line, a lot at stake in Interlagos this weekend. There's also action, two-wheel action this weekend as the MotoGP series moves to Portugal, to the Algarve. What a beautiful racetrack that is. I've seen a couple of Grand Prix there myself, personally live in action in or on the Algarve. It is just a beautiful part of Portugal, and the racetrack is fast and furious and really fast racetrack. So a lot of action expected in the MotoGP scene this weekend. It is the Portuguese Grand Prix, and you can be sure there will be a massive crowd on the circuit at the Algarve. But of course, the championship already wrapped up on 2, but there will still be lots and lots of racing to come. Just one other bit of international racing news, and that is that McLaren would rather miss out on the Formula One World Championship by a point than favor one of their drivers against Red Bull's Max Verstappen. Yeah, that's according to the team's chief executive. McLaren's Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri going into the weekend. It's interesting what Zach Brown has said. Obviously, there are going to be a lot of psychological games played. Brown said the best way to win the constructors' title, which McLaren clinched last year for a second row, was for the drivers to finish first and second, and the best way to win the drivers' championship was to have two drivers going for the title. Verstappen is effectively a one-man team at Red Bull, his points making up 321 of their 20-race 346 points. He doesn't have to worry about Japanese teammate Yuki Tsunoda taking anything away from him. Brown said he wanted to make sure that if Verstappen were to win, it was down to him beating McLaren rather than the team beating themselves. So that's, of course, the big news there. Okay, so now let's talk rugby, shall we? Because it is a momentous weekend for not only the Springboks, who will have to come up against the French, a team that are, I am sure, looking for revenge, and revenge after that semi-final defeat by a point, thanks to some incredible work by Cheslin Colby. Well, there's more on the game than there is just rugby, because Sia Tanda Kolisi, a double World Cup winning Springbok captain, will be capped for the 100th time when South Africa face the French at Saint Denis Stade de France at 10 past 10 tomorrow night. Kolisi matriculated from Grey High in 2009, a long way from where he came through. It is a little place in the Eastern Cape called Zwide. He became one of South Africa's most celebrated rugby players. And the businessman and philanthropist Vincent Mai has quietly played a role in the development of the young Kolisi at Kabega's Grey High School for Boys through a bursary scheme that he funds. But through his bursary scheme, which is generally anonymous to its 4 or 5 recipients, Kolisi was able to move from the difficult background of Zwide to become one of South Africa's most celebrated rugby players. May was back in South Africa last month to open the Music and Arts Centre that's named after him, along with being the main guest at the school's prize giving. What he has achieved has exceeded his wildest expectations, he said in an interview. The rugby performance speaks for itself, but he also knows Sia as a human being and as a man as humble, unpretentious, and authentic. He's an extremely good person, right? Exactly what he has become. He also always looks at bursary recipients and what they become is equally important. Not everyone is destined to be a professional sportsman, but he understood the need to provide an opportunity for a full measure of their academic and professional excellence. Now, Kolisi's career, let's be perfectly honest, has not always been roses and champagne, if you like. He obviously had a few issues previously with drugs and alcohol, and what can I say? It is a testament to the man's incredible ability to lead a nation and to be humble. I mean, let's just be honest with you. The guy's won 2 World Cups. He's now going to be capped for the 100th time for South Africa, 50 times captaining the country. And yet, when Rassie leaves him out or puts him on the bench or chooses somebody else as captain, Sia is there to support him. And he continually speaks about how it's a team performance and a team effort. You so often hear sportsmen and women talking about it, but you don't really believe them. You think, oh, yeah, that's just the media talk. Well, when Kolisi talks, it's nothing like that. He is just unbelievable, and he is so believable. It is quite incredible. Now, the world rankings may not reflect it, but France did send an understrength squad to New Zealand for the 3-0 series defeat in July. But tomorrow night's game in Paris is effectively a shootout to establish which team is the right to be regarded as the best in the world this year. The Springboks go in as the Southern Hemisphere champions after retaining the Castle Lager Rugby Championship, while France's reigning Six Nations champions are the kings of Europe, as indeed their club sides are at a different level of the sport. So it'll probably be the All Blacks who will gain the most from a France win, for that mid-year series result helped them, and they get closer to the Springboks' #1 spot in the official world rankings. Here's a clash of 2 heavyweight teams who do go in missing some key players, but who also, with their selections in the absence of these players, underline their depth both nations boast, and in which makes them the biggest threat to the others in the build-up to the next Rugby World Cup in 2027. France don't have Antoine Dupont. That's big big news, was injured, and the rapid ascension of South Africa's two-time World Rugby Player of the Year, Peter Steph du Toit. But France have Maxime Luku. He has done well in Dupont's absence. He plays off the bench, and anyone who has seen Nolan Le Garrec play in European competition knows that the man who's wearing the number 9 on Saturday night is just as good a scrum half. So South Africa had to make a couple of changes after the win against Japan. All strength changes. Of course, one injury-enforced change, and that was because of the injury to Ox Inche. Boan Venter is into the Springbok side. Let's have a look at that box side. Damian Willemse returns at fullback as Cheslin Colby moves back to his regular position on the wing, with Jesse Creel and Damian D'Alende in the center position, Kirkley Aronson, Cheslin Colby on the wings. Sasha Feinberg and Gomazulu and Kobus Reinach will be the halfback pairing, while Jasper Visser, Steph du Toit, and Sia Kolisi, the captain, will be loose forwards. Loete Jager and Eben Etzebeth will lock the scrum for South Africa, while the front row will be Thomas du Toit, Malcolm Marx, and Boan Venter. On the bench, Johan Grobler, Gerard Steenkamp, Wilco Louw, R.G. Snyman, Ruan Nokia, Andre Esterhuizen, who can play both in the back line and amongst the forwards, Grant Williams and Mani Libbok. Angus Gardner, the Australian, is the referee for this game. Hopefully, the refereeing decisions will not be as poor as some of them were last week. So that's not the only series of fixtures. That's not the only milestone. Rassie Erasmus will be coaching the Springboks for the 50th time when the team runs out tomorrow night. And the first time he coached them was at the same time as he was director of rugby, way back when South Africa played in Washington, D.C. against the United States in 2018. And oh, how far he's come from that. Remember, all he wanted to do was put a team together to compete, not win the 2019 Rugby World Cup, which they then went on to do, or was always to win the next World Cup in 2023, which they did as well. And now I guess his goal is to do what no one's ever done before, besides the fact that the Springboks are also the only team to ever win it 4 times, will be to win it 3 times in a row. That would be some feat when they travel to Australia for the next Rugby World Cup. So the other fixtures for the weekend, there's Ireland against Japan, Scotland against New Zealand, England against Fiji, Italy against Australia, Colombia against Mexico, then the big game tomorrow night, France against the Springboks, and then on Sunday, it's Wales against Argentina. Then next weekend, just to whet your appetite, South Africa off to Italy, England host New Zealand. That is the big clash of next weekend, while Wales take on Japan, Ireland play Australia, and France play Fiji. And on the Sunday, Scotland play Argentina. Argentina will definitely be looking for a win in that one. Okay, let's have a look at football before we wrap up tonight's edition of From the Boardroom to the Locker Room. There is action aplenty before another international break coming up in a week's time. So as far as the local football scene is concerned, the action is, there's no Betway Premier League action in South Africa this weekend. That, of course, is on hold because it is the Carling Knockout semi-final weekend where Richards Bay tomorrow afternoon will take on Orlando Pirates, and then on Sunday, Golden Arrows will take on Maruma Gallants, and that's in the Carling Knockout Cup in South Africa. And then in the Premier League this weekend, some mouth-watering fixtures to take the teams into the international break. It starts with the clash in London between Spurs and Manchester United. That's at 2:30 on Saturday afternoon. Following that, 5 o'clock kickoffs for Everton versus Fulham, West Ham versus Burnley, and then at 7:30, Stadium of Light is where Arsenal will be taking on the home team Sunderland, and at 10 o'clock on Saturday evening, Chelsea will entertain Wolverhampton Wanderers, who are in desperate trouble at the bottom of the Premier League, and a trip to Chelsea I don't think is going to be an easy one for Wolverhampton Wanderers. Then on Sunday, 4 o'clock kickoffs. Aston Villa against Bournemouth, Brentford against Newcastle, Crystal Palace against Brighton, and then Nottingham Forest will host Leeds United before the big game of the weekend, Manchester City against Liverpool. Now, there's more significance to that game than just bragging rights. Of course, these two teams have been the most successful in recent years in the Premier League. They also are right up there in a chase for the title as they chase Arsenal. They're sitting in second and third place. Just a point separates the two of them. So it's a big 6-point swing for either of these two teams. Either Liverpool will go ahead of Manchester City, or alternatively, City could stretch 4 points clear, unless, of course, it's a draw. They're all chasing Arsenal, and Arsenal will be hoping for a draw in that one. They could extend their lead in 6 points, rather, by the end of the weekend, or if by some miracle they get taken 25.6 points clear of Manchester City. Liverpool in third, along with Sunderland and Bournemouth. They also have 18 points. And then Spurs 17, Chelsea 17, Man United 17. So big 6-point swing between United and Spurs as well. In 10th place in the Premier League on 15 points, Brighton. Aston Villa also 15. And bottom of the table, rock bottom, Wolverhampton Wanderers. They have just 2 points from 2 draws. They're yet to register a win after 10 games in the Premier League. Nottingham Forest not far behind them. They've also only registered a single win, 3 draws. They have 6 points, a point behind West Ham, who only have 7 points from 10 games. Those 3 teams in desperate trouble at the bottom of the Premier League. Then Burnley, Leeds and Fulham above them. And it is going to be a big weekend for all of those teams at the top and at the bottom of the Premier League this weekend. Promise it to be an incredible sporting weekend. I will be back on Monday to bring you all the news and stories around these big sporting events that take place this weekend. Another edition of From the Boardroom to the Locker Room, Monday evening, same place. As always, be nice to each other. Until next time, bye for now.